y'all. We're back out here at the Free Pentecostal Church of God out here on County Road 437. And this is what I walked into now. I'm telling you. It started off with Sister Sarah looking for a contact and turned into this. There's Brother Doug right there doing the bunny hop and Brother Lamar over there doing the crip walk. And there's Brother Paul on the keyboard breaking it in for the 99-2000. Sister Mildred's just passed by wearing the curtains from her house. She does it from time to time. I don't know. We are burning it up. Yeah, Brother Doug right there in them coal horns and them slacks. He said he was going to show you how to do the Dougie. Delbert's behind him on the bass guitar. He's just waiting for the potluck lunch to start. He can't wait. And Brother Sam right there is a diabetic, I think. Somebody needs to get him something.
Is that footage from your old church, Nick?
So true. So true.
Yo, it's a return to Nick Cavazos. We haven't seen you in so long, bro.
I know. I honestly feel like I need to owe YouTube an apology. I've just been gone for like 2 months or something.
It's been a very good, worthy cause, though.
100%.
How are they doing up there? I mean, if you want to fill in the audience on what you were doing a little bit.
Yeah, some of you guys might have seen, but so for the last essentially month, I was up in Oklahoma kind of helping out at the Harrisons, or some people know them as the Liturgy of the Home Family. They're the ones who do the really epic calendars. Shameless plug, go buy a calendar. It's still early enough in the year. It's definitely worth it. It definitely helps them. But anyway, their young one, right? He's 2 years old. He has, or really had, a brain tumor that was growing on his brain stem. And long story short, they took him into the hospital, got about 90% of it removed, but because it's on a brain stem, it's a little too delicate to get rid of entirely. The good thing, though, is it looks like it's not going to grow anymore. That's the good thing. He did have some post-operative complications. So 5 days after the operation, he had a stroke, this little 2-year-old poor boy. And so the left side of his face is, I would say, about 90% paralyzed. Now, the silver lining in all of this is that he's so young that he's able to more than likely recover and just be completely normal.
His brain will remap itself.
Exactly. But like for us, we'd be toast. But for him, there's a good chance. So there was some post-operative process stuff he had to work through. They had to put it in a trach tube into his neck because he was having a lot of hard time breathing. It was rough. And honestly, the first day that I was there and saw them in, it was really tough. But I just basically left them a few days ago, and I'm slowly making my way back to Texas. But they're doing much better. Still a long way to go. So keep them in your prayers. But I learned how to be a pig farmer, a cattle farmer, a plumber, and taking care of 4 kids all at once. So I have absolute mad respect for every single parent out there, because I wasn't really parenting. I just got a tiny little bit of a taste. And goodness gracious,
how many kids do they have?
So 5 in all. 5 in all kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of them going through something that insane, man. But you helped them out. You helped them out on the farm. Like, you had to actually learn how to do farming and stuff.
Exactly. Which was so funny because, like me, I'm a metaphysician. I'm not a farmer.
Yeah.
And so it was great. It was wonderful, though. I liked it.
So we got the title in the video is the St. Pat's thing, but that's like the least I have to say on, like, out of all the things.
It's the least interesting.
It is the least interesting.
We all know our opinion on it. You know what I mean? Like,
but I want to talk first off. Eric Sammons did a evolution show today, which was clearly a response to all the crap we've been doing. All right. So I think he's here. All right. From his perspective, I know Eric, and he looks at it like, these trads, they're going the fundamentalist route. Like, that's what his perception of it is. And it kind of, I want to have a conversation with him because I really like Eric. And I think this is one of those things where, like, obviously Catholics are allowed to disagree on. It's not, a dogma issue or anything. I just think he's approaching the whole thing incorrectly, because the same way, I think like Catholic evolutionists are trying to read science into the book of Genesis. And that is very problematic. Like, the book of Genesis is not a scientific account of creation. Now, they will say that. They will say that, but in reality, they're actually doing that, where they're saying, well, these two things are so incompatible they can't work. But it's not that we have a literal interpretation of Genesis. Like, I'm not even 100% on the earth is 6,000 years old thing. My position is that the earth before the flood was so drastically different that it's something we can't comprehend. So, like, if you go through Genesis, I mean, I just read it again the other day. If you understand what happens at the fall, like, paradise is not on earth like we are now. It's in like a higher level of reality. So when they have the fall, before the fall, they're clothed. They have no skin. Like, God makes garments of skin for them after the fall. So they're basically like clothed in glory in paradise. And paradise, even if you
Oh boy,
what? You're making me itch to join the discussion.
Itchborn.
Yeah, dude, because me and Michael were talking this out. Should I send them a link? Let them jump on.
Okay.
I'm sending you the link, Michael. If you're free, if you're not, don't sweat it. So hang on, let me see. Let me send Itchborn the link.
Well, Anthony does that. I'm gonna wrap my cigar here real quick. It's from the new Incensum Catholic Cigar Company,
Yeah.
and it is absolutely delicious.
Oh, he can't join anyway. So all right. So the thing is, like, so in Eden before the fall, they're basically clothed in glory. Then the fall
Nick's
happens,
face
and
wet.
they actually like they fall lower into like a more carnal state where God gives them garments of skin. Now, as you see the story progress, Michael Hitchborn pointed this out. He goes, so you see the story of Cain and Abel happen. Now, when Cain gets the mark, all they talk about in the story is Cain and Abel were descendants of Adam and Eve, right? So they don't mention any other people, but when Cain gets the mark, he's like, when people see the mark, they're going to try to hurt me. But what other people, right? So it's not a literal telling. But what you see with the story of Cain and Abel is another fall, and they fall into a more carnal state of reality. So it's like these continuous falls, right? When we had Hitchborn on, we were talking about how the dinosaurs, there was like a different atmospheric, like, it was like a different atmosphere. So mosquitoes with wings this big were able to fly. So it's this pre-Diluvian world, this antediluvian world was so different. And what God is trying to show you is that at the flood, it's the end of a world. Like, it's the end of a world completely, and a new world comes about through the flood. You could see, like, before the flood, everybody lives like 900 years. And you see it starts with, I think, Adam lives to like 970 years. Then it's Cain and Abel live to like 830, and it's all these big numbers. Now, all these big numbers are basically close to 1,000, because 1,000 would be complete. Like, when you read in scripture about 1,000 years, that's a complete number. So you're seeing after the fall, there's these incomplete numbers, but it's still very big. Now, after the flood, God limits people's lives to 120 years. So you're seeing this drastic change. Now, an evolutionist is trying to base the world as if everything has been the same from the beginning. So they're looking at things and dating them as if everything's from this, but they're not taking into account that this catastrophic event happens, changing the entire face of the earth, continents shifting, floods happening, all these things happening that resets everything. So yeah, dinosaurs existed before the flood. Like, all these things, all of the ruins you see around the world, the pyramids, the monoliths, all these things are pre-flood. We don't even have a clue what that world was like. And then that event happens and changes the face of the earth. So if you're an evolutionist trying to figure things out, all evolution is a narrative that they're trying to tell you how things came about from the beginning. So I don't like when Catholics have this mindset, because it kind of destroys your whole understanding of what God is telling us in our creation narrative, if that makes sense. Where I saw Eric Sammons today has this scientist on, and they're talking about the Big Bang and all these other things. It's like he's just thinking too materialistic. He's missing out on the meaning behind a lot of things that, I don't know, just even the way they were talking about the solar system and they're talking about supernovas out in the galaxy. It's like these things meant something to the ancient mind, you know, and now we just look at them as like these giant balls of gas burning out in the galaxies somewhere. So
for the Big Bang to work, the theory, the math, you know, the math to work out, they literally had to invent something called black matter and black energy, accounting for, as they say, 95% of everything in the universe. Like,
well, you know what?
Can you imagine being so bad at math? You had to be like, no, teacher. That's because of black energy. And that's why I'm 95% wrong.
Yeah, but dude, you have to think about that. All right. So me and my wife like wanted to watch this documentary the other day on Yosemite, right? We want to watch this documentary on Yosemite. It's beautiful. You see these waterfalls that are like the highest on the planet. It's this beautiful place, and this guy's actually paragliding through it and stuff. And you're watching the documentary, and all of a sudden but climate change is going to ruin it all. Every single thing you watch now has a message. There's nothing out there that you can watch that doesn't have a message that they're trying to force down our throats. We saw this with the AI Google thing recently, right? Mm-hmm. So the point is, any documentary you watch on science, they are trying to push a message on you. Every single nature documentary you watch discusses it as if all life evolved from a primordial sludge, and there's no questions asked about that. It's just a given. The idea that all life started from some bacterial sludge, to me, is just preposterous. It's just ridiculous. I do think there are like previous forms of animals, because an animal can adapt within its species. So there might have been a primitive version of a bear, a primitive version of something, but it doesn't change from. So in other words, God created those species in themselves, and they adapted through, you know, millennia. Mm-hmm, but exactly. I don't see it. You know, it just seems preposterous to me. The whole idea of watching anything with science nowadays just seems so inundated. And the thing with the creation narrative, it's also symbolic for the spiritual life, right? So I'm saying you guys are missing the meaning of things. When you see that as they delve into sin, they're going into a more carnal state, that works for your spiritual life too. If you dabble in sin, you fall into a more carnal state. You go into your more base self, right? I mean, you look at that in the story of Pinocchio. Pinocchio, when he goes to Pleasure Island, the more debased he gets, he becomes a donkey. Mm-hmm. And if you read the fathers or any of the mystics of the church, they always talk about approaching God as if you're going up on a mountain, right? The earliest monastics, they went on those stalactites, right? Or stalagmites. Which ones are the ones that go from the bottom?
They were those, well, basically, they were called like starlights. They would just sit on those massive poles up in the middle of the sky, and they just hang out.
Now, they did that because there was something to going up into a higher reality to get closer to God, right? So you'll see in Greece, they have these, they have monasteries on mountaintops. There's like this, I forgot where it is, but there's 6 monasteries there now, but there used to be 20 on top of these mountain peaks. There was stalagmites. Go up.
Stylites.
Okay, stylites. There you go.
Yeah.
I knew I was close. Listen, I'm not that smart, guys.
I barely remember what it was.
But yeah, there's always this understanding of ascending the mountain, right? Like the spiritual mountain. And the descending of the mountain starts in the garden in paradise. And paradise is a mountain, and you see it unfolding. And to think that evolution is a thing, and to think in terms of the way these scientists talk, you're completely trying to baptize the atheist creation myth, and you're missing out on the story God gave us, and He gave it to us for a reason.
Whoa. Careful, Hitchborn's watching. Don't say myth too much.
So the very essence of the entire discussion boils down to what I wrote to Eric on X. So Rob, I sent you the link. See if you could bring it up. So
you texted it to me.
I texted it to you, but send it to yourself on WhatsApp. I'll pull it up.
I got it somewhere here.
Okay, so it started with Eric. I had a fascinating discussion with a Catholic scientist about the origins and beginnings of the universe. Note, they are not the same thing. It's amazing how God displays His grandeur and His creation. So Michael said, the essential problem with the question about the age of the universe is that Scientists are attempting to apply science to a miraculous event. If the universe was created by God, then by the very nature of that act, it is a miracle which supersedes the laws of nature. Because of this, and by definition, science will not be able to explain it. To prove the case, the miracle of the wine at the wedding of Feast of Cana shows perfectly how science will fail when attempting to explain the age and origins of the universe. So we talked about this when Michael came on, right? You saved the best wine for last. Now, how long does it take to make a good wine? It takes 30 years, right? So when Jesus creates the wine, turns the water into wine, it's immediately 30 years old. So this miraculous event didn't take 30 years. So a scientist studying that would say, well, no, this wine has sat here for 30 years. I mean, it's just the principle of it, right? So there's this miraculous event that happens. So with that, them failing to, because their whole premise is everything has been the same from the beginning. So when they see something, they're basing it on, okay, well, we see this much sediment has landed over the course of 100 years or 200 years. Just multiply that number and you get back to the beginning of things. And it just doesn't work that way when you have this cataclysmic event that happens. Yeah, so Michael went through all this stuff. So Eric says it's a bedrock principle of Catholicism that we're able to use our reason to understand God's orderly creation. If we lump all of creation as a miracle, then this becomes impossible. Things could appear a certain way, but could be radically different due to a miracle. So Michael goes in. If you guys want to go check that out, there's a little thread between them. But like I said, Eric,
evolution requires God to be working constant little miracles all the time.
Yeah, right. To switch a species from one thing to another.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a miraculous thing because it doesn't actually happen in nature.
And evolution is also completely opposed to actual logic and reason and philosophy. So therefore, by Eric's own standard, evolution is impossible.
Now, I don't know if he was arguing fully for evolution. He was more arguing against the age of the universe, right? Or the age of the earth. Now, I don't think anybody argues for a young universe. It's more a young earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I'm not even saying it has to be 7,000 years old. I just don't believe it's millions of years old. I'm looking at the story in Genesis, and it's not literally saying, yes, this is literally what happened, but it is describing a course of events that happened at the beginning of human history. And then this cataclysmic event that wipes everything out. And all these fossils you're finding today that they're claiming are millions of years old. Like, there's no way for them to actually verify that. You can't actually test something to know it's millions of years old.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just educated guesses.
It is. And that's one thing that I'm wondering is the cognitive dissonance of a kid in college, like a secular college, because on the one hand, in the philosophy courses, he's basically learning essentially quasi nominalism and rationalism. So it's just truth is in me and I impose the truth on the outside. I feel like this, whatever. And then I impose that reality upon everyone else. But then he goes over to the science building and he's hearing something like, well, yeah, we have to observe evidence going all the way back to this primordial sludge. But then it doesn't give you a real good answer. Okay, so if everything is primordial sludge, does that mean philosophical concepts such as truth and beauty and goodness also evolve? Are they an absolute? What about existence? Where does existence come from? And this is where just Aristotle and Aquinas just absolutely continue to destroy every shred of attempts of modern academia, because it just goes back to one simple premise. Man is looking for a cause to the effect. We're looking at the universe. What's the cause? It has to be something greater than the universe, which is God.
Well, that's the whole point of evolution. The whole point of evolution is to give you an alternative narrative to the Christian narrative. That's all it is. It's all it is. It's just a narrative that they're throwing at you. And it's
an inverse to our narrative, right?
Yeah.
Because our narrative is from the top down. Literally, God created everything. Their narrative is from the bottom up, sludge to
everything.
Yeah.
It's demonic inversion.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous for even the young earth creationists to try to wedge science into Genesis. It's not a scientific account. So don't there's something about when God tells Adam to name the animals, it's more about God asking Adam to participate in creation. It's not that Adam literally said that's a lamb, that's a goat, that's a triceratops, you know, like that's not what's going on there. It's just not, but it is describing a historical event that actually did take place. This is what happened. There was a fall of a man and woman who were not quite like we are today when they were in paradise.
100%. Like man in paradise was completely, like all of his lower faculties and passions were completely subject to reason in obedience to God, which is pretty crazy, because then it's like sometimes we're thinking like, oh, how dumb could you have really been to like fall for Satan? And it's not, I mean, it's stupidity, but what makes the fall so absolutely egregious is that man willfully and knowingly, as a creature who had all of his faculties subordinate to God, chose to completely ditch that for fruit.
So it's this temptation for knowledge too, right? So it's a warning against curiosity for some things. It's like this, and it's something about the way consciousness unfolds, like something about like becoming aware of ourselves. And
That'd be funny.
it's but I don't want to talk about it, but when I see
you talk about it in every episode though.
I know, but when I see Eric Salmon's doing a show on it, like, and also you got to realize I'm thinking about these things too, right? So when I'm thinking about these things, like sometimes like a new insight will come to me, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll share that and go a little deeper with you guys on something, you know. So it's not always the same conversation. Yes, we do discuss it, but there's always something new, a little bit added to it every time we talk about it.
Anthony will give up talking about evolution. I'll give up talking about Vatican II, and we'll be our great penitent.
All right. Why don't we do this? Why don't we bring up the other story I wanted to talk about, which was the Supreme Court possibly hearing this Catholic family's appeal because their child had gender confusion in school.
Crazy.
And the state took the kid from the parents because they would not affirm their gender identity.
Where did you
and they would have, did I text that to you? I texted it in the group text with me.
Group chat. Yeah.
So the parents wouldn't affirm their child's gender identity, and then when they would have supervised visits, they weren't allowed to talk to the kid about God. They weren't allowed to talk to the kid about their gender, anything. They were just stuck dealing with the state. The state took their kid, and the state put the kid with foster parents who affirmed his, I don't know if it's actually a biological male or female.
See what good our error of the freedom of religion has done for us. Does it so much good?
You have to hope the Supreme Court hears this, because this could put a stop to this in a whole bunch of states that are doing this, right? There's a bunch of states that are saying these are sanctuary states for gender, blah, blah, blah. So like, and they're Midwestern states like Indiana.
I know. It's crazy.
You would think this is the Bible Belt, like the heartland of America. Not the Bible Belt, but
Indiana's not in the Bible Belt.
Indiana is part of that. Like it's them in Ohio and Iowa have been like fairly red the last dozen plus elections for the most part. And so that's why it is somewhat strange. But I'm honestly not surprised, because, Tim Pool talks about on his show all the time how there's a lot of people who will be these woke elites who will go to red America and then they'll run for office as Republicans saying all the right stuff. But then once they're in office, they'll completely flop. Yeah, exactly. So, that's just what it is that there's Marxist style infiltration in so many places.
And I think Nikki Haley's a straight up communist.
Oh yeah, she's Hillary 2.0.
But I mean, especially in an organization like CPS, no matter what state you're in, 90% of the people in an institution like that, they're going to be woke Marxists no matter what. So
what I found interesting is what you brought up, Anthony. I did not know whenever I read one of the articles on it was what they're not allowed to, the parents are not allowed to even mention God to this person.
Yeah. So these are parents talking to their child. They're not allowed. So, I mean, if the Supreme Court hears this, it could be groundbreaking and change the whole landscape in the country.
Yeah.
Why don't we read the story? Because I had an interesting conversation while I was on vacation with my brother-in-law, And I think I'm going to wind up catching grief for my position on this.
Grief from
Because-
us or from your family?
From you guys. I really do think people are going to misunderstand what I'm saying, but okay.
I'll do my best to purposefully misunderstand.
An Indiana Catholic couple whose child was removed from their home following disagreements over their son expressing a desire to identify as the opposite sex are asking the Supreme Court to hear their case. Parents Mary and Jeremy Cox follow the Bible's teachings on human sexuality, ascribing to the belief that God designs humans as male and female. Because of their religious beliefs and adherence to biological reality, they could not abide using feminine pronouns to identify their son, who demanded to be called by a female name after he told his parents in 2019 that he identified as a girl. 2021, the Department of Child Services initiated an investigation into the parents following a report that they weren't affirming their son's chosen identity as a girl. The boy was eventually removed from his parents' care and placed in a home that affirmed his self-declared gender identity. According to the law firm Beckett, the parents have filed a petition with the Supreme Court asking the justices to hear the case, stating this court should grant this petition and affirm its precedence on the right. Or I lose my spot.
The right of fit parents to custody of their children.
Yeah, so that's basically the story, right? So I was talking to my brother-in-law about the whole gender conversation, and I'm like, I'm wondering if by us yelling there's only two genders, we've put people, because there was always the tomboy, right? There was always the tomboy and maybe the more effeminate boy.
Mm-hmm.
Always
Where
tomboys and always fairies.
Right. So those kids now who are tomboys and fairies, because we're saying there's only two genders, are being like, well, I guess I have to fit into one of these two boxes, and they're being forced into one. Like, it's almost like, I know gender and sex are the same thing. So there are two genders, but gender expression kind of has a little bit of, I don't know if that's the right word I'm using, though. That's why, because he was like jumping on me. He's like, there's two genders. I'm like, I'm not saying that. Of course there are two genders. Like there are two sexes.
I think the whole idea of gender expression is that it's just stupid. We shouldn't even use.
But I'm worried that we've put ourselves in a position where, because there's no framework for them to work in, they're like, well, if I'm a little effeminate, I must be a girl. Oh, if I'm a little masculine, I must be a boy. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm worried if we chose to frame the conversation wrong.
Sure, yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I think that it's actually a good thing, because I think what you're talking about is like, in masculinity, or femininity, there's a certain range of how someone would necessarily express that. But I think where that can go back to, it can literally go back to like how much testosterone, like for instance, a woman might have, as opposed to the next woman. So it's like, one woman may be like, oh, I want to go and build a tree house, with my brothers and my brother's friends, and et cetera, and play stuff like that. And then the next girl's just like, yeah, I just want to play with dolls and have a tea party.
Now that girl that wants to play with the tree house, I mean, look at Nancy Charles, right? We had Nancy Charles on. Nancy Charles was just like kind of a tomboy.
Exactly.
She had same-sex attraction, right? But she goes to therapy, and the therapist is like,
horrible.
you gotta transition.
Exactly.
And like, it was a miracle that she had a conversion experience, right? It was a legit miracle.
I think the problem is we just as a society don't even understand masculinity or femininity at all anymore.
Yeah.
So there was a warping of what it meant to be masculine. And I hate to use the term toxic masculinity, but you have that sort of that sort of alpha male masculinity that was kind of pushed as the ideal. Not that that's wrong. I mean, aspects of it are, but that's not solely what it means to be masculine. Saint Joseph would have never fit, your average, alpha male stereotype, but he's a model of masculinity.
Yeah,
we don't
too.
Well, you can see the conversation that Tim Gordon's having against the red pill scene are like perfect, right? So the red pill guys are basically like there is a form of toxic masculinity.
Did you see Frad?
Matt Frad even said it was. Dude, did you watch the show that he promoted? Like that
I haven't yet. I'll have to.
Dude, it is so good. Like, they just break down how ridiculous, what the red pill is saying, that it's basically meninism, instead of feminism. I mean, it's the same exact thing as feminism, just the male version of it. They're saying go and be promiscuous, go and like they're all of their ends that they seek are natural ends. They're all, hedonistic pleasures, and those are the ends they're seeking. Like they're telling these guys, if you're going to get married, you got to have 50 chicks under your belt, you got to have a $200,000 a year income. It's like, dude, if you sleep with 50 women before you're married, you will never be a faithful husband. You just won't be capable of it. You will have so many bad habits. You will never, like, that is a guarantee your marriage is going to fail.
Plus, they continue that cesspool of thinking fornication is normal and something you should engage in, which is just disgusting. And that's the problem.
What the red pill doesn't discuss is, if you talk to anybody who did live that hedonistic lifestyle, they will tell you how they feel like garbage. I mean, you listen to any celebrity talk about it. They like the rock stars, they'll talk about it. They'll say, I was sleeping with a different woman every night. It just left me feeling empty. If you ever hear a rock star conversion story, those are the best. Like if you listen to the guy from Korn,
Brian something,
Brian something, he talks about it. He's like, I'm sleeping with all these women, I'm doing all these things, but it just leaves an emptiness in you. You're grossed out by the person you were with, and you just want to get rid of them. And it's just it leaves such an emptiness in you, and that's something they never even touch on. And part of it, like, these guys are all bragging, like, yeah, I've been with 50 girls. It's like, dude, you sat at the club until 2 a.m, until the last straggler was there, because you tried to get with all the pretty girls, all of them turned you down, and you ended up leaving with the freaking whale at the end of the night that was just doing the same thing you're doing, and you're bragging about it like it's some great thing. Like, these guys are just, they're living in this delirium. And Tim, his friend Nick, and somebody else, I forgot, just did a great job of just laying out that what an awful version of masculinity that is, and that self-sacrifice and really like laying down your life, and they just did such a good job of it. I know a lot of people think what they think of Tim Gordon. I think he's the only guy actually talking about what needs to be talked about on this topic. I
think you're right, Rob, honestly, because like when you said that we as a culture don't know masculinity or femininity, I think that's rooted in our hyper individualism in the United States, because it's like, you look at all these other countries, they say, oh, I became a man when I went through this rite of initiation and my father said that I was a man, or vice versa.
Whereas us, your society recognized you as a man.
Exactly. And us, we're just like, well, I don't know, mate, like when I could drive or when I could vote or, whatever, right? We kind of just figure it out ourselves. And the problem is that all of our system is so wonky. When we look to our fathers, we get that image of masculinity, whether for good or for bad. And so I've seen some videos out there that have actually been pretty interesting on the character archetype from J.R.R. Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings, Aragorn, how Aragorn is like the perfect masculine man, because on the one hand, he'll travel, he'll fight, he'll defend those, he's loyal, etc. But then at the same time, it's like when his brother in arm, Boromir, dies, right? Spoiler alert, yeah. For those of you who still don't.
It's only been out 70 years, but spoiler, guys.
Yeah, just in case. But like, he like in a very like noble way, like, weeps and then like kisses his brother's head.
He sings, he writes poetry.
Exactly. Like, so it's like David, right? David's killing lions, bears, and Philistines, and then he's also writing the Psalms and expressing that emotion in a very good way, like a controlled way, right? But he's still expressing it. Whereas I think a lot of us get our image of masculinity from like 80s movies, where it's just this like macho guy who like sleeps around, swears a ton, drinks a ton, drives a ton of fast cars, and that's it. And then for women, vice versa, it's like, okay, they have to be just like either on the one extreme, right? A man, right? They must be a man, exactly like a man, or
especially in pop culture, right? In pop culture, it's the superhero chick. It's Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, this badass chick kicking the crap out of every guy around. It's like, I can't even, like,
horrible.
Dude, I'm not kidding. I cannot watch anything anymore. Because every single thing. Look, I'm telling you right now, I am very worried about the Cabrini movie, right?
Yeah.
just from the trailers. I don't know, and I know some of the people that were producers of it and stuff. So I don't I don't know. I didn't see it yet, but I see in the trailers it seems like they're going for the like there's one clip where John Lithgow says to her, "Cabrini, you'd have been a great man." You know, and it's like this super chick who's just gonna go against the hierarchy, and she's gonna get things done. And I'm hoping that they frame that movie as her love for God.
I have a feeling, and I could be wrong, because once again, it's made by Angel Studios, which does the freaking Chosen, so you never know. But like Ryan Grant, Buck Hall, they've both seen. They haven't seen the theatrical final cut, so who knows? But from what they saw, they said it was good. It was faithful.
I hope so. Yeah. I'm not.
So
I'm not going to prejudge it.
Maybe the trailer is going to draw people in, thinking that's what they're going to see, and then it's going to be like, no, it's going to hopefully be the exact opposite.
I see they're like releasing it on Women's Day and International Women's Day, and I just hope. I mean, let's hope for the best. That's all. I haven't seen it yet, so. But yeah, it's that model for women to have to be the girl boss. It's everywhere now. So
yeah.
And the same thing with men, like you're saying, it's either that super macho guy, or now it's
it's like Peter Griffin from Family Guy. He's the iconic architect on the other end. He's
Homer
this
Simpson.
he's this weak person. The children run rings around him. They're way more smart. And, he's just this idiot. He's this bumbling idiot. And so it's like we need Davids and Aragorns out there rather than
what do you think we could do as a good rite of initiation for our boys to become men in our culture? Like I never did one with my son.
That's one thing I've actually wrestled with.
Never mind. Can't say that on YouTube.
Do you have any ideas what you might do with your son, Rob? Like, I mean, I took my son to do things, right? So, I mean, I like when my son, when we did a lot of snowboarding trips together, the two of us, and had like deep conversations, and that's where my son really received the Catholic faith in those 3-hour, 4-hour drives where him and I just had these deep conversations talking about the meaning of life and God and all that stuff. But I never did like hey, let's go out to the woods. We're going to do this ritual, and you go from being a boy to a man.
So just from where, taking into account where I live, I'm thinking, I don't know what age, 14, 15, 16, probably somewhere in there. Take just him out on a canoe trip into the Boundary Waters with, where we're doing a lot of portaging, purposefully bring less food than we should have to try to challenge him to catch fish or something like that.
No, you have to tie him to a tree.
Make it safe.
You have to tie him to a tree, blindfold him.
On fire.
And tell him you have to survive the night. I'm leaving. They actually did that in a culture, right? Now the father would be sitting 50 feet away to make sure nothing happened to the kid. But the kid doesn't know that. And he's sitting there with a blindfold tied to a tree. And if he makes it through the night, when he comes out the other end, he's a man. Like that was actually a ritual they would do. And that would be how you proved your manhood. They have in Australia, they have the walkabout.
Does this though get at the heart of like what is a man though? Because that's the thing, is it's like even with these examples, while I think they're good, they do seem to lend toward like something physically you must do. Whereas like, what if, for instance, you're disabled? So like I'm thinking about, like for me, I'm thinking, okay, what makes a true man a man is going to be someone has righteous character, so virtue, and they're a person of their word. And so if I'm instilling virtue in my child from a young age, so teaching them chastity, obedience, humility, right? And then whenever they get of age in their teenage years and you start to explain why we do these things, if they start living these things out, then I think at some point you can actually sit down and you've looked and examined your son's life and you can say, you are a man who practices chastity. You are a man who practices humility. You are a man, right? That's what a man is, because you're letting your reason, right, by divine grace rule you, as opposed to your passions running you around, if that makes sense. I think that's what a man is someone who allows their reason truly through virtue to guide them around.
I agree with that. I think you still need to do some sort of
physical,
like ritual, some sort of almost liturgy, right? Like, so
that's what I'm saying. It has to be a ritual.
I think you could do what you're saying, Nick, Like you've shown that you are ready for this ritual, for this sort of
Yeah.
liturgy to take place.
Yeah, there was a point where my son was about 16. He was fighting with my wife, and I grabbed him and I go, "A boy fights with his mom. A man takes care of his mom. That's the difference." And something about that conversation like clicked in his head. And when my wife would ask him to do something, he would just kind of be a little more docile to it, where he would argue with her before that. And it was like these little conversations you have with your kids will affect them. So I remember that was one of them, because he kept fighting with my wife over. I'm like, no, a boy fights with his mom. A man takes care of his mom. That's the difference in boyhood and manhood. But I never did like a ritualistic thing with him. I wish I would have gone out into the woods, just the two of us, and had some kind of initiative, maybe even with his uncles, and did something with like a group of guys and said, all right, tonight.
I kind of had that actually when I was 16. When I turned 16, my father gathered pretty much every older man who had any impact in my life. So it's like music teachers, pastors, mentors, older parents, friends, and they came together for a very like small, intimate surprise birthday celebration. And at the birthday celebration, what they did was they each handed me something that had really impacted them in their life, like whether that be a tool, a memory, or something that kind of helped formulate them as the man that they were. And then they all passed that down to me. Now, they didn't say in that speech, we W a man, but in that it was kind of a physical representation of like, okay, you are a man now. Here are the tools that we are passing on to you. And so sometimes it can honestly be just something as simple as like you maybe just passing down to your son something of value, whether that's knowledge or maybe knowledge plus something physical, and then just saying those words, you are now a man.
That's actually really good, Nick.
Yeah. I mean, in so many different stories, you see that passing of a memento from father to son or from grandfather.
Maybe a knife,
to
right? Like
a knife,
that meant something to the dad, or
yeah,
it could be a rosary.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Yeah, man. Like my dad, growing up, my dad was a phenomenal role model for the man who takes care of his family, right? He taught us all my brothers have such good work ethic. Like every one of us are just, we all work at the same company, but every one of us made it to like supervisor positions, and every one of us will never turn down a day of work. We'll work Saturdays, we'll work overtime. Like we don't care. We just want to make sure our families are taken care of. And I have cousins that work there too, and their fathers didn't do that with them, and they are just awful because their fathers didn't teach them work ethic. But my dad I always had like this bitterness that he never handed me down the Catholic faith properly. He had a phase where he was Catholic, but he always left catechetical stuff to my mom, and he kind of was just in the background, and he would say things like, you got to go to church, but he never had any, but I don't know if my dad had a deep understanding. I don't think he ever did have a deep understanding of the faith. It was always more of an emotional high he got from being in the charismatic movement. And I don't think he ever had that good foundation to pass on to me. But I mean, I'm talking even like, oh man, I don't know if I want to say this publicly.
Oh boy.
There was an incident where he like said something to me about like, he told me something about like his childhood, just like, and bragged about it. And I was like, why are you telling me this? Like, I don't know. I shouldn't say it publicly, but I remember being like super disappointed in him. Like, why are you bragging about that? That's not something to brag about, but like, he didn't even understand. And it's weird because I didn't even have my conversion yet, but something intuitive in me knew like, this is the base. Like, you shouldn't be bragging to me about this,
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly just never ceases to amaze me. We see stats, we know people in real life where it's really the father that formulates the family 110%. And I think that's just something that we all got to realize. It's like every child, it's like this. I'm not a parent, but I've kind of gotten a tiny, tiny, tiny taste over 3.5 weeks to where these kids are like coming up to me, asking me permission to do things or whatever, right? And it's weird because a 12-year-old walks up and asks you
They
permission.
saw you as maybe not like an older brother figure where they had to.
Yeah. And it's weird because I've never had that. And so like someone comes up to me and asks me permission, but they're 12. I'm thinking, what do you need my permission for? Because I'm never used to that. But then I realized like, oh, okay, what do I in this like brief period of time pass on to them? And so like I would try to instill, like, especially in the boys, like, you want to be a man, you want to do something that's masculine, pray your rosary every day,
Yeah.
especially for your parents right now. Stuff like that. Seeing the fact that like you see around us, religion is so feminized, but then instilling, especially in guys, that like the best thing that they can do is be reliant upon Almighty God, and He's going to be the one that give them the strength to do what they're meant to do.
So even though you're not a father yet, and I want to say this to Margot also, because I know Margot doesn't have kids. So you are a father by your vocation, regardless of if you have children or not, right? So I go to work and I work with a lot of guys in their 20s and stuff. I'm always fathering those young men. Like there's so many guys at my job who look to me as like a voice of moral clarity. They're like when they would get engaged, they couldn't wait to tell me that, hey man, I'm finally stepping up and I'm doing the right thing. Because I would always say to these guys, like, what are you doing with this girl? Like, what is she, your concubine? Like, what are you doing with this girl? Are you going to marry her? Like, I would always talk to the guys like that. I would talk to them about like the beauty of having a family and the importance of being a father and what your responsibility is as being a father. And those aren't my kids, but that's the role I play with them. So like every guy you come in contact with, even if they're older, like you do have that in some ways. I told in my talk, I talked about this. My son had to call me to go back to mass when I stepped away from the faith for that period of time. And my son was like a father to me. It was weird. He was like, Dad, why aren't we going to church? And it was like this little stroke of conscience that God put in my life.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, but Margot, you may be, but you're not alone, right? You do come in contact with people, and everybody you come in contact with, and it doesn't mean to be overbearing and push your faith on people. Sometimes it just may be being an ear for them to talk to and a person that they can lean on, and always using your faith as the foundation of the advice you give.
Yeah,
I would say, right? So, and you said something else that made me think of something. What was that last thing?
Nick said something that made me make a connection in my head. I just about how feminine the church has become, and I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, it's just so suffocating how feminine it's become. That made me think about, Anthony, how you have said in the past how it's overbearing mothers that turn their sons gay.
Yeah.
Well, holy crap, overbearing women have turned our church so incredibly gay. It's unbelievable.
All right, so this is a good
segue.
There you go. I'm so bad with some things, right?
The stupid scooters from the 2000s.
It's a good segue into St. Pat's. So for everybody waiting to hear the St. Pat's story, because I threw something out. All right, so the reason I said it was because Father Krupp, who's always charitable, I want to find his tweet.
Sometimes kind of to a fault.
Yeah, to a fault, I would say. But I want to get his tweet and read.
So true, Tyler. So true.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it.
It was more or less about how we were all unfairly attacking the priest, like it was his fault, right?
Yes. I actually will have it in a second. Okay, so I got it. Okay, so his was a response to another priest. Okay, so this priest says, it would never have gotten to that point. The moment someone I don't know and who doesn't have a relationship with the parish requests a funeral mass for a loved one who also isn't known, I ask questions. Who are you? Who is he? I Google names. By that point, the thing would have been called off, and so-called eulogies. So he goes into that whole thing. So Father Krupp says, brother, if I may be so bold, how many parishes are you a pastor of? How many funerals do you do a year? I typed this for a few reasons, but I guess the key is this. I'm deeply saddened by how many experts on the situation have risen up and decided the church is the problem in this, with some members of the gay and trans community. The church is the problem. Instead, wait, I'm sorry. I lost it. Decided the church is the problem here and needs to be addressed. The problem is with some members of the gay and trans community. They did something awful, and I have yet to see a member of that community condemn it. I've seen a ton of Catholics going after the priests in the parish, and I guess I'm just astounded. So, he said, then goes and saying, Jesus, have mercy.
There are requirements that must be met for someone to receive a Catholic funeral. And it is the parish's responsibility to make sure that those requirements are met. When I went down to the parish 4 hours away to bury my dad, they made sure that he was a Catholic and that he met all the requirements to receive a Catholic funeral.
Yeah. Dude, you go and you want to go get married. They say you got to make sure you go through pre-Cana. You both have to be baptized. They ask for your baptismal records. They ask for, like, they don't just and they want their donation if you're not part of the parish. And a lot of people get mad at that. They're like, the church wanted me to pay for my marriage. It's like, dude, you don't go to the parish, like, and now you want a service from them. Yeah, you got to pay for that. If you're a member of that parish and you go every week and you're giving money every week, they're not going to ask you for anything. But if you're just coming in and you want to use them for the sacrament real quick, yeah, you're gonna have to give something. But regardless, that was a little tangent, but yeah, they're going to ask for documentation. Who are you? And especially in a cathedral. What is a cathedral? It is the bishop's chair, cathedra. It is the chair of the bishop, the cathedral, right? Everything is supposed to be by the book at this place. This should have been run through meticulously, right? At the cathedral, you know it's going to be a lot of views on it. This is a very high profile thing. So I said, I'm going to make a bold claim and say the clergy at the cathedral probably had no clue, and this all happened because of some broad they put in charge, because of course women have to be in positions of leadership, which is what we're dealing with all over the church. You have Susan from the parish council everywhere, and women are essentially running the parish. I mean, dude, I called. So you know how they have confession on Saturday from 4 to 5 before the 5 o'clock mass.
Yeah, I've
sat on that line and missed it. So I've called the parish, gotten the secretary, and said, "Hey, I want to set up confession. Is Father available?" He does confession from 4 to 5 on Saturday and tells me no. And I'm like, "Miss, I know you think you're making this call. I want you to go and ask the priest if he will meet with me. I'm just telling you, when we do confess, I'm asking you to please ask the priest anyway." She goes and asks the priest. The priest says, "Absolutely, come now and I'll meet you." And it's like, this woman wanted to rob me of absolution because she thinks she's in charge. So I think there's a good chance that a woman that runs the cathedral, which is absurd, may have been behind it. But Rob said he's heard some rumors that I don't.
Well, it was on Catholic Family News. Someone from the diocese who used to work in the diocese, no longer does, said that they definitely knew who was being buried. They definitely knew, like, they knew it all. I mean, this, for any other high profile mass at their funeral at the cathedral, like, there's a strict process they go through before they allow a person to be, have a funeral at St. Patrick's Cathedral.
That's what I would think, right? There should be a very strict process.
So an insider says that there was no deception involved, and that, moreover, that they didn't say this priest specifically, but that 90% of parish priests in that part of Manhattan are homosexual themselves. So,
yeah, I think it's 110% plausible.
Rob, also, you mentioned this one to me. This is revenge for having Father Ripper.
That same inside source at the diocese said that they believe that this was specific, not revenge, but it was a way for them to appease the rich liberals who were upset that Ripperger, whichever one it is, I think it's Ripperger, right?
Yeah.
That Ripperger was allowed to speak.
The thing that worries me about, like, saying this stuff is that we don't know, and
we don't.
Hearsay. I just hate dealing in hearsay. It's like
the way I see it, the parish either allowed it because they knew, or they didn't know and they did not do their due diligence to figure it out.
Well, either way,
they were at fault.
And so Father Krupp was like, I just think it's so shameful that like everybody immediately wants to blame the church. It's like, do we not have a right to expect something from our hierarchy and our leadership? Like, are we not allowed to have any expectations of orthodoxy and fidelity to the truth at this point? I mean, is that where we are now?
At this point, we're just happy when a priest is caught having an affair with a woman and not a man.
It's crazy, but
it's like Joe mentioned on this show many moons ago when he said that like is our expectations or our like standard of whether this is a good bishop or not so low that it's literally just does he allow the TLM?
Shout out to Joe Boca.
It's been a while.
Shout out to Joe Boca, man. I miss him. I actually talked to him yesterday.
But it's so true. It's so true. And that's, I mean, okay, I'll say this tiny bit tangent, but then move on to your point, which is like, again, I don't believe all of this is like the true church of Christ and the bride of Christ. I think that just so much of this is just that post-conciliar nonsense church that has nothing to do with the gospel. Tangent over. Now addressing specifically this, I think when it comes down to it, think about it logically for a second. We don't know whether or not this is confirmed or not, right? So we don't know for sure. But is it really that hard to believe at the end of the day that the diocese would have known about it?
Because especially if Jim, Slim Jim Martin knew.
Yeah, it's like
and he says he did.
If this is the cathedral, you would think that they would have a little bit more of a background check. Plus, think about it from the perspective of the opposition. They knew they could get away with this if it was deception. Then they knew that they could get away with this. One, what does that say about the parish? But two, if they knew that they could just partner with them and get away with it, it's even worse. And so that's my whole point. Is it's like at the end of the day, at best, it's the worst negligence of all time.
So now the LGBT group is going to protest for cutting the funeral short, and you also have a rosary rally going on from the people who want reparation for the blasphemy that occurred, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did that just say, Rob? I didn't see that.
I didn't mean to click that.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dolan handles it, because Dolan is such a politician, dude.
So
he's a bureaucrat, such a politician, man. He's like everybody was like, "What's Dolan gonna say?" And he's like, "I praise the priest for cutting the mass short." Like he's always got an angle, man. The thing is, Dolan is he's not my bishop because I'm not in New York City, but
he's your metropolitan.
He's my metropolitan, and he also allows my favorite parish in the world to exist. So I don't want to be like my standard is so low that I'm just grateful that he allows Holy Innocents to exist.
He cancels Holy Innocents and he says, "Yeah, I watched this show online."
I actually thought about like writing him a letter of thanks because it really is. It's like an oasis, that place, man. It's unlike any parish.
I did that with my bishop, and now my mass is canceled.
I did it with mine too.
I'm so glad to see modern papists say that, because there's this weird thing going on that Tim Gordon and Patrick Coffin were talking about it, where it's like this new genre of
the post-trads.
The post-trads that are coming in, and they're pretty based when it comes to the Amish question, and they're pretty based when it comes to like a lot of issues.
Well, that's because they're kind of Zoom, they're Zoomers, so they're
Zoomer, and they're listening to Fuentes and they're listening to E. Michael Jones, who both hold the pretty similar positions, right? It's like no, the Pope is good. But they're not just saying like the Pope is the Pope, and they're like Francis is the greatest thing ever, It's like, all right, come on, chill out, guys. Like, I understand the Catholic instinct to not want to slander your father. Like, that is a very good Catholic instinct. I respect it. But to go overboard and be like, he's actually good, I have a hard time with that one. The EMJ is interesting because E. Michael Jones is pitting this argument as against like people that say Novus Ordo are borderline schismatic, because they're acting like if you go to the Novus Ordo, you're a second class Catholic, and it's it's so preposterous because the Novus Ordo itself, first off, the term Novus Ordo comes from the Novus Ordo Missae. That's not a slanderous term, but the whole separation begins with the Novus Ordo when you start getting liberal liturgies and conservative liturgies, right? So you start to have this separation happen naturally. So if you live in a town, before you even know the Latin Mass exists, you want to go to a conservative parish where the priest is speaking on conservative things and the liturgy is not, run by women. So you start seeking one out.
Dance mass that we saw a few days
Right.
ago.
So as a regular Novus Ordo Catholic, you're already separating yourself from another. So this segregation begins just by the existence of the Novus Ordo. So of course, if somebody discovers the traditional mass, it's like they find this thing that they've been waiting for, and everybody that goes to the traditional mass is intentionally going there, and they find like-minded people, and you're just going to see a further splintering. But it doesn't necessarily mean the people going to that traditional mass look down upon people that go to the Novus Ordo.
I got some spicy takes, honestly, about that video that Tim Gordon made with Patrick Coffey, because it's pretty. It was a good video. I was actually glad someone talked about it because I've seen the same trend online. Personally, and this is going to make my generation, I think, really, really mad. My generation.
Great. I love pissing off the Zoomers.
Yeah, I was just like, this is the thing. There's this whole sub genre of Zoomers who, do the exact same thing. So it's like they're very based when it comes to a lot of geopolitical issues. But then when it comes to shilling for all the insanities of the papacy, they will be that, shill machine, if you will. But what does it come back to? I truly think for a lot of them, it comes back to two things. For the influencers, it comes back to just pure like mental breakdown cope. They're trying to latch onto something that's eternal and timeless because they see the chaos in society, right? And so they're just like, okay, the papacy, I'll latch onto that. But they don't want to, with that, they go like to the zeal of a Tridentine era Catholic while trying to justify his liberalism. But then at the same time, the followers, right? So the thousands of people in the Twitter algorithms, the reason they do it is because they're just looking up to them for something to do, for someone to speak for them, for someone to follow. So that's what you mentioned. A lot of them follow Fuentes. A lot of them follow E. Michael Jones, right? We see, the rise of what Tim Gordon the other day talking about Mexican Rocky, right? And Michael Lofton, right? He's another great example. It's like, so a lot of people latch onto these guys, but it really is both the influencer and the follower. It comes back to a fundamental lack of understanding about the Catholic faith and pure reason. This is one reason I actually really do like Tim Gordon, is because he'll always bring in classic philosophy, and he'll just say, okay, why shill for the Pope? And basically be like, the Pope is the arbiter of tradition, when your conclusions are leading you to the endpoint of saying only the Pope has the faculty of reason, right? And so that's really what it is. And to my generation, we're starved for leaders, we're starved for truth, and so we're just following basically, e-influencers to try to find some justification for what we believe in, as opposed to doing what you should do, which is go read a manual. It's so much better.
Yeah, but it really is dude, this is a conundrum we are in, because it is hard. Like, because I understand what E. Michael Jones is saying. He's saying he's like, you have to have unity. So he say that's why I will like, you do need, the Pope is still the central point of unity, no matter how you look at it. It doesn't mean he's the central point of clarity. Doesn't mean he's the central point of orthodoxy anymore. It used to be. Something's going on right now, though.
But they treat the Pope as if he's impeccable. So that's the thing. They'll talk about all the time defending the indefectibility of the church. But then whenever I hear them talk, one, they're not even talking about issues generally that deal with indefectibility. They're talking about impeccability. So they'll defend to the death a random quote by the Holy Father, right? Which, at least on its face, can easily be read in a heretical way, right? They will defend tooth and nail that claim. But then literally, if a bishop was to have said the exact same thing, they're like, why are you in dissent from the Holy Father?
So crazy.
It's the same thing.
So crazy. He'll say the same thing, and he'll say he's going against what Francis said in this document. And it's like, no, Francis actually allowed for that in this document.
We talked about it was like, what was it called? Like something Catholic monarchist that you got into a debate on with Twitter whenever Fiducia came out. And he's just like, how dare Slim Jim defy what Pope Francis said? Call him superior.
He's following it to a T. Somebody took a picture of James Martin today or yesterday of him blessing another
Yep.
same-sex couple at the
At
LA
the-
wreck.
Yep.
Now, I'll be honest, that one bothered me less than the first one, right? It bothered me less just because it just looked like two dudes coming up and he just said a prayer over them. It didn't look like the first one was in a church and it's looking like he's blessing the union. The one that he took today, it's still wrong, but it just looked like he just was saying a prayer over two people. They could have been straight, they could have been whatever. It obviously they weren't, but like the photo op wasn't as scandalous as the first, right? Mm-hmm. So, but yes, that is exactly what this document was given for. It's given so that guys like James Martin have an excuse to say, hey, I got the Pope's backing now. And even this thing in St. Patrick's Cathedral, I got news for you guys. If Dolan like really cracked down on it and went the Orthodox route, he'll get in trouble with Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So he has to make a choice now. Do I go against the trans community and Rome? Because Rome and them are on the same side right now. Wait, holy cow. You have to find the article, Rob. There's a crazy article of the Roman catechist saying we are not going to catechize Rome anymore. Do you know what the article is?
I know what you're talking about.
The Rome, oh my gosh, man. This is like straight out of the apocalypse talking about.
I'll just search your tweets because I know you, you tweet forever. Hold on, I'll find it.
Sometimes I'm tempted just to get X just to
you know what you can. Oh, you're on there. Stop pretending you're not.
I'm not. I promise I'm not. I'm not. I wish I was.
4 pages down, and I'm only 3 hours through your tweets.
wait.
You saying you'd sooner believe aliens landed in your backyard?
If you search on
we're talking about the chirp.
The chirp. We had Ryan Katsu Rivera on. He was like, dude, you're wild on Twitter, man. I don't know.
Women cops.
I know how to find
it's okay to be white. Boy,
one of my interactions with I got it. I'm gonna send it to you right now, Rob.
Okay. Well, that comes through. And while Modern Papist is here, I do just want to share this real quick. Modern Papist has a YouTube channel, and his parish is raising funds for an adoration chapel. So he's having his priest on his YouTube channel March 2nd at 7:30 for a question and answer. So
very cool.
Check them out, guys.
Cool. Let's go.
Okay, so ex-Catholics in Rome reconnect with roots, spirituality, and paganism. Reconnect with roots, spirituality, and paganism. As Romans search for alternatives to Catholicism, some have turned to Jupiter, Minerva, and Juno. So Vatican City aren't as disillusioned by their experiences in Catholicism. Some Romans are turning to paganism and finding a connection to their roots through worshiping the gods of antiquity, whom they see as more welcoming than the church. Than this church? Who can be more welcoming than this church? I don't get it. Rome is pagan, Pope Francis told members of the Roman clergy during a closed-door meeting on January 14th, when he urged them to consider the city a mission territory. Asked about the Pope's surprising words a few weeks later, the head of the Department for Catechesis in the Diocese of Rome admitted Rome is at the same time pagan and the city of the Pope. It's a paradoxical city. Makes you think Rome will become the seat of the Antichrist. It makes you think because we know in the end times Rome will rise again. Like the beast is Rome. You know, if you really understand what's going on there, even when it's talking about Babylon, it's talking about Rome and Babylon, this entity that's going to rise up. The number of practicing Catholics in Italy has plummeted after the pandemic. The Italian National Institute of Statistics found that only 19% of Italians were practicing Catholics in 22, compared with 36% in the previous 10 years. The number of people who never practice their faith has doubled to 31%. But a lot of this is immigration flooding in too. So the numbers are going to swap because you're bringing Muslims into the country. While the church grapples with the causes behind the emptying pews, some who have left their faith behind are searching for other spiritual outlets. An eclectic group of Romans who gathered near the ancient forum on a windy morning have turned to Juno, Jupiter, and Apollo to find answers. I was a practicing Catholic for many years. I was a catechist.
Of course you were.
Of course you are. Probably taught at a Catholic school. Who recently started attending the ancient Roman rituals. Then I had a spiritual crisis when I moved in with my wife. Had a very bad experience and had to leave my church. Was this his second wife? I wonder.
Well, it's Italian. Who knows?
Oh, man. Paganism, through sometimes used as a derogatory shorthand for anyone who does not worship the Abrahamic God of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, is an umbrella term that encompasses. Dude, this is wild. Like,
I'm not surprised. I'm just not surprised. It's like Tim the other day, right? Shout out to Tim Flanders. He put up this video where it was something to the effect of like, the world, like Vatican II wanted to basically dialogue with the world, and the world rejected the offer. And I put in the comment section below, I said, conservative Catholics want a dialogue with the world, liberal Catholics want to become the world, and traditionalists say exactly what James 4:4 says, right? You adulterers and adulteresses, know you not that friendship with the world is enmity with God. You become the enemy of God. And that's just what it is. If we have this mentality of not converting the world for Christ, then paganism is inevitably going to rise, because a lack of evangelization is de facto quasi-pagan. It's like one thing I chuckled about is in the statement of the Holy Father, he says, that we've become mission territory. But yet, at your own words, you've also said, don't convince people of the Catholic faith. So you say that, you also say things like Luther was right with justification. So how do you why would you be upset? Why can't you just say that these people, because they do believe in a God, they have that little bit of communion still with the church in some mysterious way. And can't we at least acknowledge that as being good? That's the problem. It all falls apart. Christ is king. We got to evangelize. We got to get on this game. It's getting ridiculous.
It's weird because, like, as Catholics, especially when you read church history, you have this impression of the church going and preaching the gospel and spreading throughout the world and converting the pagans and bringing everybody to Christ. And then during the Reformation, we have our counter Reformation, and we're just in a time now where the church has quite literally laid down her arms. It's like Peter in the garden when Jesus says, "Put down your sword." It's this weird thing happening right now where the church has just laid down her arms and just said, go ahead, take us out. If you don't see the apocalyptic overtones of it, where it just looks as if we're in the Garden of Gethsemane right now, where the church has just laid its arms down. And It's weird, that story, because Jesus tells Peter to bring his sword to the garden, and then he tells him to lay it down. It's a weird story. You gotta read all the synoptics of the Garden of Gethsemane. There's like little differences in there.
I know you guys have talked about before, like the famous quote by Bishop Fulton Sheen, where he's talking about communism and like the ape of the church and the counter church and stuff like that, right? But what a lot of people don't know, and I'll actually send you guys these quotes when the show's done, because I'll go look them up and I'll send them to you. But there's actually in the great theological tradition, right, of the manualists before the council, in their official, like these are official seminary textbooks approved by the church, right? So these aren't just their opinions. They talk about in their theological manuals about how in near the end of the world, Satan will rise up a counter false church that will have all the quote sacraments, all the quote marks of the church, but will do the inverse in the mission of the church. So the mission of the church is to give God glory and to save souls. It will do the opposite. It will give man glory and it will damn souls. And that's exactly what we're doing. We focus so much on man.
Yeah, it's the religion of man.
We're damning souls. It's like you look at these people and you're like, okay, you don't have any hatred for these people. You feel sorry for them. Like that one person said, right? They grew up in Catholic Christianity, but now they're going and practicing, a religion of these, as St. Paul says, right, demons, who, let's just be honest, like you read about all those Roman and Greek gods and goddesses, they were all just these hedonistic monsters, right?
Yeah.
They didn't care about you. They used you for their own pleasure, right? But people are looking for meaning in this whole self-religion that so much of the conciliar church has pushed upon mankind, it's not
You,
working.
you want to know what's crazy? Like the early church understood there was a very important point to preserving the stories of these ancient gods, to preserving the stories of the Greek myths, to preserving these stories, because it saw itself as like if you really understand the 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 narrative of what the Christian story is, it fits in with these pagan gods where
Mhm.
these pagan gods exist, and then Christianity. So that you have all these pagan gods around, and then you have the people of Israel, where God is telling them, do not worship these other gods, these
Yeah.
other false gods. Do not worship them. They're all part of the story, though. And then when Christ ascends, the light of Christ goes out on the world, and it starts snuffing out these other gods. So
Mhm.
so much a part of the story that these gods get put away and bound. God binds them in the lower places. And
Mhm.
in the end times, there will be a releasing, and these gods will return, and there will be a rising of it. And you are seeing it happen. Like, you guys, people that lose their faith in times like this, you guys are missing out on such an important point of the story. We are in an exciting part of the story, as
Yeah.
much as it seems crazy and scary and all that. Like, this is an exciting part of the Christian story. And when you really understand that you're in it and that you're seeing these things coming back, it puts it in a perspective where your faith should increase, not decrease.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't help but saying like there is a God that reigns in Israel, because it's like, you know, if you see these things happening, if you see, like, for instance, in the Olivet Discourse, St. Matthew chapter 24, Christ talks about how in the end times that the charity of many will grow cold, right?
Mhm.
We always, like, in a memeish way, joke online about much charity, right? But there's a lot of truth to that. You see, like, society's lost just basic common decency.
Real charity.
Yeah, real charity.
Real
We
charity.
all, like, in comparison, have lost so much that we could have. But then what does Christ follow that up with? He says, "He that will endure to the end shall be saved." Right? And so this is the point. Like, if you think that the church is always going to be this, like, 13th century powerhouse, which we would all love, right? Admittedly, that's just not the case, right? We
Yeah.
will go back into the catacombs. Pius the 12th talks about it, right? He talks about, like, the day that the church abandons Latin is the day that we return to the catacombs. We're going to return to the catacombs, but it's there which the true light of faith will rise up, and you'll start to see genuine conversions happen en masse. And, you know, I don't know if we're in the end of times. I don't know if this is maybe just the beginning of the age of Mary or not. Who knows? But it's exciting.
Well, when you say the entire look, it doesn't. Oh man, it's hard to.
I mean, we've technically been in the eschaton since
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it doesn't mean like, Christ is returning tomorrow. It doesn't mean the Antichrist is coming tomorrow.
Bro, I watched Left Behind last night. It's gonna happen any moment.
That's what's funny though. That the Protestants have such like, they don't understand. They actually think Christ is going to return to reign on earth in the flesh again for 1,000 years, and it's just, dude, that's what's going to happen. According to the story, is you're going to see a rising of these gods who were bound for this time. And Rome will rise up again, like ancient Rome will rise up, and there will be a severe persecution of Christians. It's going to be so. I've said it before, but in some ways, Francis is what's making it easy to be Catholic right now. So you guys got to kind of appreciate the calm before the storm, because it's going to get. So I got to just say something Andrew said, because I understand this feeling of being alone, right? So he's like, yeah, it's exciting when your family and friends are Catholic, and that's understandable, right? Like, if you don't have, which is why this show has been so freaking good for us, man. Like,
To be fair, my family's not Catholic.
no, but you have friends. Like, that's what I'm saying. Just even us hanging and talking about Catholic, like this show has made, dude. I just ordered St. Gregory of Nyssa, The Life of Moses. Can't wait for it to come, because I cannot wait to read this book. I've heard a lot about it, but I also want to get some of the other church fathers, because I'm trying to research stuff for the show so that I can shut up about the creation story and give you guys something new.
Don't forget, we do still have to have John Wynn on about the book.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so also Rob and I are Rob and I are going to hang tomorrow in the green room, and we got some ideas that we're going over. So we want to do some higher production, shorter videos where they're not us just shooting the crap and, like this. We want to actually do like a 15 or 20 minute presentation on the Crusades. We want to do a 15 or 20 minute presentation on the Inquisition. We want to do same thing for Catherine of Aragon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that woman, she to me is a martyr for marriage in a way, even though she wasn't killed for her, she died to herself while King Henry humiliated that woman and went and basically he's like the patron saint of the red pill movement.
So true, dude.
I'll never be able to keep up with Josh, but he does give me ideas of things to think about. And even Michael Hitchborn, the things that show we did with him where he talked about like the antediluvian world, it still resonates with me now, and it makes me just really contemplate these things, man. Just how important it is to not think materialistically, especially in this time when you're seeing all these things going on around you. You have to think in a way where you realize, like, even during Lent right now with fasting, I want to freaking give in so bad every day. And I just keep really trying to think of what I was saying earlier. When you give into your carnal desires, you go into a more debased version of yourself. When you fast from these material things, it elevates you to a higher place, and you go to the mountain, meeting God on the mountain of God. And it's just not giving into that spirit of temptation, because there is a spirit behind it. And you can't just say it's a feeling. It's an actual spirit calling you to give it. Just give in. It's not that big of a deal. Just have something for breakfast. Don't worry about it. Like, it's an actual spirit calling you there. And when you see it as an actual spirit, and you're not just thinking it's your own, weakness, like, just stop thinking it's just your own. It's actually a spirit calling you. You have to stand strong against the spirits that are trying to pull you away from your God.
What did you, if you guys don't mind me asking, what did you guys decide to do for Lent? Because I was like, gone for the beginning of Lent, so I kind of missed all the like pre-Lenten hype.
I am doing one meal a day, no meat Wednesdays and Fridays.
Okay.
And that's it. So
I'm doing something pretty similar. Fasting until I get home from work, and then no meat.
Okay.
Yeah, because Rob's on keto with no meat.
Yeah, the keto part is for health, from my doctor. Doesn't have anything to do with Lent, other than it makes it suck.
The awesome thing for
it's
me
like
is
eggs and cheese. That's what I get to eat, guys. Eggs and cheese.
I gave up bread and cheese also. So even when I come home and have my meal, it can't be bread, cheese, or meat on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Now, for most people, I know that doesn't sound too bad, but keep in mind he's Italian.
That's all I eat. Literally all I eat is sandwiches and pizza. It is my entire diet. Every day at work, egg sandwich in the morning, sandwich for lunch, come home, my wife makes pasta, I throw mozzarella cheese on it, Parmesan cheese. That is my whole diet. So the awesome thing is my wife is doing it with me, and because we can only eat once a day, like, we're both so excited to eat for dinner. Like tonight, I came home, my wife made teriyaki glazed salmon with broccolini and brown rice. Like, it was, I came home, I've never been so excited to eat something.
Rice,
brown rice, yeah, it was good. But
that's one thing that's been difficult since becoming more traditional, especially in terms of like Lenten and fasting and abstinence. My wife's been either pregnant or breastfeeding the entire time.
Yeah,
so she's never, I've never let her do any of it with me, because it's just unhealthy.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Yeah. So Christian, so the first week was a lot of sniping. Now it's getting a little better. Like, we're both actually encouraging each other and stuff. It's pretty good now. We want, let's.
Do we want to talk about Russell?
Yeah. So I sent you the clip, right?
Yep.
All right. So thank you for the segue for Frater Spiritus. Oh no, Nick, what are you doing for Lent?
I'm doing essentially what I've been mostly always doing, which is just I call it like a little bit stricter version of the 1917 Code Lent. So basically, best way to remember it is the same rules that you do for Ash Wednesday and Good Friday of just like 1 meal a day and 2 collations. I do that Monday through Saturday. And then Sunday, I just maintain abstinence from meat, but I can have up to 3 meals. So, but for my collations, I'm very strict because it's like, people are like, well, what is, how much does a snack really need to add up before it's a meal? And so I just follow what the manuals say. So like if I do have a morning collation, 2 ounces, so like a piece of toast. And then for an evening collation, it can be up to 8 ounces. So that's like some soup and bread, but that's it.
Yeah. So I started at 3 a.m. this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave my house at 3 a.m. I was struggling, like just energy wise. Like I was afraid I was going to fall asleep. I had a hard boiled egg this morning, like just to get me through the day until I got home. And then I had that meal. Like because of my job, I've been trying to stick to just 1 meal a day, but I had a hard boiled egg this morning. Just to,
that's why collations. That's why collations were introduced. It was like, it's so much easier when you're like working from home with your family in the 13th century. But when you're out there like busting rocks in the industrial age, you're like, bro, can I please have some eggs?
I'll tell you right now, if I was home, if I worked from home, like if I had a job like Rob sitting in an office, I'd have a harder time not eating.
See,
that's
for me, it's not so hard when I'm at work, but like I haven't been fasting on Saturdays or Sundays just because like when I'm making breakfast for the family or
cooking for the kids and stuff.
Right. So, and then, so I'm just not fasting on Saturdays or Sundays.
So I haven't been home on a Saturday yet. Like this will be the first Saturday I'm home. This is going to be hard tomorrow. When I'm at work, it's just like work. Like I'm doing stuff. I got paperwork going on. I'm, marking jobs out. I'm doing that. Like it's almost like my mind's busy. I'm not worried. Like I get hungry, but I got something to keep me busy.
What chicken dance video is being talked about?
We're talking about the video Kenny Hall put up a few days ago. It was in Jersey.
Oh,
I don't like playing sacrilege.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
I mean, not that I judge Kennedy for doing it or anything. I don't know. I honestly, I didn't want to even.
I haven't even watched the actual.
I did.
Trans homily thing. I couldn't bring myself to watch.
Oh
it.
No, I saw a clip of it. Yeah. It's just
go watch an SSPX homily and you'll feel better after.
I didn't even want to talk the St. Pat's thing because I've been thinking about like what are we doing on this channel a lot, and I'm like, I kind of want God to bless what we're doing, and I think if we're just drama merchants, I don't know if he will, and I want this to be something that people get something from, and not just anger.
I agree. I've been thinking the same thing with my show where I'm just kind of like, that's why sometimes I'm just like, look, y'all, this is just not the Catholic Church. Go read a good Catholic book, go find a good mass and focus there. And because it's just like, this is just a horse and pony show on the side.
So what are we doing by pointing that all out? It's like, honestly, I think if you have a good mass that you attend, have a good parish life, try to not like dwell on this. Like we're going to see it. You're going to see it online. You're going to know what's going on. It's just, it's one thing if we talk about it occasionally here, but like, I never want to be the show that dwells on church drama. I just don't. I feel dirty after doing it.
I think you can do kind of like we did tonight. You can like bring it up for like 5 minutes, but that's not the point of the whole show.
Oh no, that's what I think. Tonight was a great show. We talked and it also kind of naturally came up. Even though we had it in the thumbnail, it kind of naturally came up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do the Russell Brand thing because this is interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if it's strictly a Hallow ad.
I've not heard of this story.
All right.
Oh, is this the one where he's talking about like he's getting closer to Christianity?
That was earlier. This is a new one.
This one he talks about about Lent.
Talks about onanism, like giving up looking at filthy images and
it
stuff.
Literally says onanism, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Face? Okay.
Yeah. He's definitely
granted he does it in a yoga pose, so
right, but okay, so you could sit there and judge him for that, or you could say, look, God's obvious.
No, I know. I'm just saying
God's doing something in this guy, man. Don't let's try not to put God in a box and how he works in somebody's heart.
Don't say that stupid phrase. I hate that phrase so bad.
I do too, but all right, let's watch.
It's Lent. What's the point of Lent? Are you doing Lent? I'm doing Lent. I've stopped eating sugar. That means I'm not having sugar in my tea. Now, as an Englishman,
Me too,
this
dude.
is an incredible
Me
sacrifice. But the point of Lent, I have learned, because I'm doing this Hallow app that I got off of my mate. Well, actually, I bought it. I got it off of Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus in Chosen. And I once worked for Mark Wahlberg when I done that show Ballers, and Jonathan Rumi was my body double. Jesus is my body double. That's my catchphrase. So because I've been listening to Lent stuff on this app, I've been contemplating the purpose of Lent, that it's not just to choose something to give up. It's actually to bring us closer to God and expose how dependent I have become on the little pleasure of sugar in tea. But for all of my espousing spiritual principles, the fact that I'm drink and drug free, that I work a program around all forms of behavior and attachment, I try to be conscious all of the time of what I'm doing for myself rather than in service, and I trip up every single day continually. What Lent gives me the opportunity to do is recognize my dependence on external things. Sometimes I say to people that I walk this path with, the path of recovery, the spiritual path, you're going to give up your connection to God for a biscuit. You're going to give up your connection to God for a pint, for a look at some salacious sight in the dead of night, some onanistic circular fumble of self. You'll give up your connection to the Almighty for that. So I suppose that in Lent, we should be looking at together the possibility and opportunity that we can give up material connections, that our connection to God will be stronger. Let me know in the chat and comments what you
Okay, so that's a wrap. So all right, he said some good things in there, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you're gonna give up your connection to God for some visual sight, some onanistic thing, right? Like, you really have to think like that, especially any of the guys that are watching, man, because I know guys struggle with that, man. Like, you really have to look at it like, I am choosing this over God, and you have to think that, like, if you keep playing around with mortal sin like that, you will lose your faith. It's just
100%.
what will have. I've seen it happen to so many guys. It happened to me. You will lose your faith. And I'm trying to figure out if that was strictly a Hallow ad, because it very well could be, right? Oh, Jonathan Rumi and Mark Wahlberg and the Hallow app. But I do think something's going on with him, man. I'm not saying he's Catholic, but
Oh, I think he is, because it's like I've seen like 2 or 3 of his videos recently where he's sounding an awful lot like us in many ways. But it's awesome. It's just like, look, I'll encourage him to, keep pressing forward. But you're absolutely right. Like, lust is one of those sins that every single moral manual will say that if you get ensnared in, you are going to fall into the vice of despair and lose your faith because you're going to think it's impossible. That's why the first step, right outside of confession, to defeating that vice is you have to first and foremost believe that it is possible to defeat it. If you don't believe that, it's never going to be defeated. I remember for me, when it got eradicated from my life, it was literally through that first step of just being like, okay, I have to first recognize that like, by God's grace, I'm capable of defeating it. And then literally just do what the church has said to do. And you're going to be walking away free from it. And sometimes the best way, I think, for guys to get that beaten into your head is just this question of being like, what kind of dad do you want do you want to be? And what kind of, like, going back to what we were talking about when it comes to being like masculine, if you can't role model to your sons right now, or even to what you would hope your sons would want to role model now, that's something for you to really check on, right? Because that's the real key. It's like, I don't want to be someone who's addicted to anything and have my sons follow my pattern, just in the same way that when I'm looking out for a spouse, I don't want the girl that I'm wanting to date to dress like I would want my daughters to look up to dress if she's dressing inappropriate.
yeah,
Right?
dude, it's funny you're saying that. Because just the very point of you have to believe it's possible. So I remember when before I had this thing under control, I was complaining to my cousin. I'm like, dude, why doesn't God give us I'm praying, why doesn't God give us the grace to conquer this? He goes, he does give you the grace. You just haven't accepted it. Like, you just haven't made up in your mind, I'm done with this yet. Exactly. And that was like a light bulb went off in my head. It's like, oh man, like, that's crazy. And then I went and I had a priest give me a penance where it was set your alarm every day at 3. I mean, a lot of people that listen to the show all the time know the story, but had me set my alarm every day at 3 o'clock to pray the rosary or the Divine Mercy Chaplet. And that that combined with my son and realizing if I want to be a good father, like my son needs to know your mom is the only woman your dad looks at. So it was like a combination of things. I know people that watch all the time probably sick of hearing that story, but
I'm not. I've heard it like 5 times and I still think it's epic.
Yeah, but with Russell, man, dude, I'm telling you, look, here's the thing. He's reading the Gospels with an open mind and an open heart, and now practicing Lent and fasting. Like, dude, that's like a recipe. Like, all this guy needs is to get handed a rosary, and it's a wrap. That's what I think.
I think he's talked about praying the rosaries.
Has he?
I think in a video just shortly before this one.
Interesting.
Well,
let me see if I can find that.
He's friends with Jordan Peterson, and maybe Jordan's wife had gave him a rosary or something. I mean, if he's praying the rosary, that's a wrap, dude. This guy's becoming Catholic.
So yeah, so Deacon Nick Donnelly says that Russell Brand says that he prays the Most Holy Rosary daily.
Oh man, he's in. Nancy, we spoke about you earlier in the show. Yeah, dude, I think it's funny because as you're seeing the chaos in the church and things like that, like you're also seeing these crazy conversions. I saw this guy just before. Let me see. Oh no, I just lost it. This guy is
Nancy wants to know what you said about
her. We were talking about the parents that are bringing the case that their child was taken away for gender identity, like their child was taken away, and they're bringing the case to the Supreme Court. And go back and listen. It's worth listening to. I was wondering if like conservatives have framed the argument wrong. So this guy, Jeff Putnam, he's a full-time writer, ghostwriter of fiction and nonfiction. He's got 60,000 Twitter followers. Says, my daughter is going to a first Holy Communion retreat tomorrow at my parish. Like me, last May was the first time she'd ever stepped foot in a Catholic church. I enrolled my younger kids in catechism classes, and me, my wife, and my older kids in RCIA last August. And as a family, we've never missed a mass or class. This Easter Vigil, my entire family will be baptized, confirmed, and receive first Holy Communion. I mean, dude, you hear these so unbelievable that while the chaos that where everybody's this is going on, it's like God is still miraculously pulling people in to let them know he loves them, and his church is the true church that Christ founded.
Yeah, we need to talk about those things more. Make those the thumbnails and the storylines.
Christine, I see that point. Yeah, you definitely do, right? I just don't know if I want us to be those guys. Like Kennedy's a news reporter, right? Like Kennedy is your hard-hitting news guy. Same thing with Taylor. Like those guys actually do, like they are the breaking story guys. I mean, I work a day job. Me and Rob have to think about like, what do you want to talk about tonight? Like it's just a different vibe on this channel. This channel, I want more to be just we're just hanging with our friends and whatever comes up. I mean, we had like some ideas of where we were going to go tonight, but we're an hour and 40 minutes in and it feels like the show flew by.
It really did.
Right? Like that's when you know you had a good show, when you look up and you're like, oh man, it's almost 2 hours already.
What I'm curious at, because you mentioned it at the I think before the show started, but what is this? This will be your segue into a video about Big Don. What's going on with Big Donald Trump these days?
Yeah, Rob, let's play that. I was gonna open the show with it. This.
There's some like troll video or something, right?
Let me look. Let me pull.
Yeah, and I never want anybody to think I'm knocking guys that do that. Like I'm not. I just think some guys are better at it than us, and I don't know. I don't feel natural doing it. Like it's one thing if it's a big story, like the St. Patrick's Cathedral is a big story. When for what was it?
Fiducia,
when Fiducia supplicans come out, like how do you not talk about that? Of course you're going to talk about that. I just don't want to be the breaking story guys. Like, oh man, this drama happened. Honestly, Paul, that is what this show should be. Like I listened to those guys growing up, and Like to say that hasn't influenced the dynamic on the show would just be a lie. All right, let's play the Trump video real quick. I wanted to open with this in honor of Nick.
Of this country. It's the biggest thing missing. We have to bring back our religion. We have to bring back Christianity in this country.
That's it. That's all it was. Agreed harmony. I love Anthony Stein. Yeah, so but he also doesn't look, so like people were coming down on him because he wrote something about IVF today. Like he doesn't understand IVF is bad. Like and a lot of Protestants just think IVF, you're struggling with having a baby. Oh, science made it so that we can have a baby. Like they do not have the philosophical foundation to understand what you are doing with IVF. IVF is, I mean, if you explained IVF to somebody in the Middle Ages, they would say that is witchcraft.
Oh yeah. You gotta, you're exactly right. As well as I'd say to people like, cut the guy some slack in some sense, because it's like, aside from the fact that, yeah, he's not a Catholic and he's not like a philosopher by any stretch of the imagination, not formed in the Catholic worldview. Like, look, the guy clearly believes that there are demons in this world. If you were in his position, how would you not believe that there are demons in his world when you just see absolutely how unglued and how evil people have become toward the dude? It's like, you got to believe in a God. And so all we can do is pray for him, right? He's not perfect. No one ever just claimed to be, but he's doing.
God can use the imperfect to do things. So it's so much worse than just an abortion factor. Like it is that.
It's horrific. Absolutely.
It's definitely a further warping of natural law, like even worse than abortion.
It goes into the stupid materialist thinking again too. People think it's just science. You're just you're doing something so warped. You are actually doing what like a succubus does. And like you're taking the seed of a man and implanting it separately from the procreative marital act into a war. It is witchcraft, dude. Like people don't see things for what they are. There is a spirit behind this. Like there's a spirit that demands sacrifice. The children are being sacrificed for the one that gets to go through. It is so demonic.
It's definitely occultic for sure.
For sure.
I think C.S. Lewis, or it's probably C.S. Lewis, but he said something to the effect of like, demons and Satan are trying to get you to have as much premarital sex or adultery as possible, but then when you're married, he's trying to prevent you from having as much as possible.
Yeah.
Right. In the sense of like, actually just being with your wife or vice versa. And it's so true. Satan will do whatever he can from bringing more people made in God's image into the world. But he's totally fine if you just separate that and follow your hedonistic pleasures wherever they go.
There was some guy who posted a spreadsheet of all the times his wife denied him.
No, I saw that. Yeah,
it was pretty funny. But dude,
are you serious?
Yeah,
he posted a spreadsheet. He asked her every day over the course of like 2.5 months, and she only said yes like 3 times.
It was every 10 days she said yes.
No, it was like every 17 days.
Something like that.
Once
every 17
Anthony
days.
counted.
Oh, I did. I was like, how many? Dude, that would erupt into, like, you don't even know the war that would cause in my home, because I say what's on my mind. There's no, like,
imagine that.
I would never, that will never happen in this house.
Someone clip just this part of the conversation.
Dude, I'm telling
And send it to his wife.
She'll be the one to tell you he never leaves me alone.
The thing is,
at least I know Anthony will never do something like that because he doesn't know how to use Excel.
That's 100%. I'd be like, Rob, you got to meet me in the green room.
No, I'm not making this spreadsheet.
Rob needs to start getting paid. Goodness gracious.
This is actually a good point. Because it definitely was on a,
all her excuses were, I'm watching a show, I'm not in the mood right now. Her excuses were like, She's like, I'm watching a show right now. I don't want to. I have a headache tonight. I didn't shower today. Go sleeping spreadsheet. No, listen. So Rob texts us the other morning. We're in a group chat, me, him, Jason, and Mark, and he texts us the other morning. And
do you guys even remember Jason and Mark anymore? All you
we got to get
members?
them back on. I thought you were going to do a show with them when I was away.
Well, so here's the thing. I didn't tell you. What did I have my surgery when you were? No,
you guys were going to do.
We were going to do trivia without telling you.
That would have been hilarious, dude.
But I ended up being too sick.
Oh,
That's
man.
so funny.
So so we're in a group chat and Rob texts us and he's like, dude, I've been up all night. What was it that Maddie was sick all night, right? It was like Maddie was up sick all night. I would go, all I'm hearing is you had your kid in your bed last night and you didn't sleep all night. He's like, Maddie doesn't sleep in my bed anymore.
That's great.
It's like, all I'm hearing is you were up all night because your kid slept in your bed and was coughing all night. You couldn't sleep.
Oh man.
Did you what was did you find the rosary video with Russell Brand or no?
It wasn't a video. I saw it was just a tweet that I had seen and I saw that one. So someone noticed, I guess in one of his live streams, he was wearing a rosary. Someone noticed it and he said the Hail Mary on air.
Oh wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Oh, so going back to what so those shorter, well-produced videos that we're going to do, you gotta understand.
We should make a list of Anthony sayings.
You want to know what's funny? When the show starts, I try to speak properly with my R's, but like every once in a while, the slang will slip.
Especially
in.
towards the end.
As I get more tired, and my R's get less pronounced as the show
Is it
goes
Mario
on.
or Mario? That's the question.
Mario.
It's Mario. We'll have this fight till the end of time.
Yep.
Those
It's like
those
scenario.
Nobody says scenario.
It's not scenario.
It's 100% scenario. Nick, what would you say?
Probably, but see, this is the thing. I'm from Texas. We like slur everything, so I would probably actually say I would say scenario. But
Yeah,
it's probably pronounced scenario.
Rob, say roof.
Roof.
You say roof. You don't
Roof.
say roof. You say roof, and you say button.
No, I say button.
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 So all right, so those shorter, more well-produced videos, what we're going to do is Nick's probably going to help us with them. Rob and I, we should talk about too after this, the great thumbnail controversy.
Or have you been seeing the text Father Nix has been sending?
No.
Talking about getting a certain Mel Gibson on, possibly.
Oh my gosh. How crazy would that be?
That'd be cool, right?
Pretty epic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he'll do it, but how crazy. If we got Mel Gibson on, I would want to talk to him about The Patriot and Braveheart more than The Passion. The Passion's like an easy give me, but Braveheart and The Patriot are two movies that just like Braveheart.
We Were Soldiers is my favorite.
We Were Soldiers is epic. All three of those are great.
The Patriot, dude, that was such a freaking good
And
movie.
doesn't he direct? He directs. What was it? Hacksaw Ridge, which was
Patriot,
That's
right?
what Father Nix wants us to talk
My
about.
son said The Patriot's a great
This
movie.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah, because there is some like I respect this. I respect the message, but I don't take it as an absolutist because pacifism is absolute pacifism is not a Catholic.
Right.
No, but that story was about a man who wasn't a coward. He was plenty courageous. He just,
exactly.
it was more a story of religious freedom. But I think the Catholic themes in Braveheart and The Patriot are way more powerful than We Were Soldiers. I just do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we won't talk, Lethal Weapon with them or anything.
Oh, come on now. Those are classics. That is just
I love
pure
them,
comedy gold.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and rewatch them, try to find some Catholic themes in them. When
Like, do you
in the
remember
straight jacket,
when Donnie
dislocating his
Glover
shoulder.
was was attached to the table with the bomb, or the toilet with the bomb in it.
Yeah. So anyway, those videos that we're going to do, we're going to put on locals first. They're going to be shown to our locals viewers first. We're going to ask you guys opinions, what you guys think, and then we will release them to the, you guys will get a first look at them. We actually didn't go to locals tonight because Rob put all of his Lenten reflections.
That we have a limit on number of streams on locals. So every day when I've been doing my Lenten meditations, I've been putting them on locals and used up all of our live streams.
Yeah, so we don't have any live streams left on locals until we hit 500 subs, which you guys, come on. I'm so tired of
what are you guys at? You're not at 500 yet?
No, 280.
Not on locals.
Yeah. Guys, go give them a sub. Come on.
We have a lot of cheap viewers.
Oh my gosh.
Who say Mario instead of
I don't know
Mario.
if insulting our viewers is quite the marketing.
I thought they were Catholic. Apparently, they're Amish. I thought we had a Catholic audience. Apparently,
hey, they're too busy digging tunnels to subscribe.
That's literally what my joke was going to be.
Oh, sorry.
Stop digging tunnels and go to locals, guys. We really want you to support this show. You guys are our friends. You hang out here twice a week with us.
Yeah, next Thursday is the next movie review,
The
and
Confession, right?
Wasn't it?
No, it's not The Confession. I have to watch it still.
I Confess.
I Confess.
I Confess. I need to watch it too.
Yeah, it's the Alfred Hitchcock movie. I have never seen it. Dude, I was thinking about, like, there's so many Catholic movies that we could do. Like that series is going to go on. That series is going to go on for a long time because there's just so many movies that we could actually go over. So now the great the controversy over thumbnails.
Oh boy.
So we had Joshua Charles on Tuesday. So I wake up on I guess Wednesday or Thursday morning. Yeah, yesterday morning. I wake up and I'm like, I'm gonna make a crazy thumbnail and put it on a video. For the first half of the conversation, it was about, like, against Protestants. So I make this thumbnail.
Literally wakes up and goes, how can I stir the pot today?
How can I stir the pot? So I wrote dishonest, low IQ arguments, Protestant arguments.
No, you just said Protestants.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you did.
Dishonest, low IQ Protestants.
With a picture of James White and Gavin Ortland.
With James White and Gavin Ortland. And I put it up. Rob looks at it. He goes, "That's too much." I'm like, no way.
That so I just wasn't a fan of the design, but
he takes it down and he tones it down a bit. So Rob and I have this whole thing about like we start arguing over thumbnail. Not arguing. I'm just like, dude, I want to make them a little more edgy. Like, we got to make them a little more edgy. Like, all our thumbnails are basically just like a picture of us. We don't really put words on. I'm like, you gotta make. We got to put a little controversy. So we put it up, and in the comments, a couple of people are like, I hesitated to click on this. I love you guys, but this is really uncharitable. So Rob said it to me. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, thumbnails is supposed to be controversial. Like, I still clicked on it. He still clicked on it. And the guy didn't watch the original video with Josh Charles, but he clicked on this one. So it still got on the cloud. I'm like, let's just leave it.
And after this, the Inquirer was born.
I go to bed because I have to wake up at 3 a.m. And
right. Shortly after Anthony goes to bed, I get a phone call from Joshua Charles while I'm getting the kids to bed, so I didn't answer. Then I started getting texts from Joshua.
Yeah, so we're in a group text, and he's like, "I can't believe you guys put me in this position. Like, this is just so."
I'm like, whoa, not you guys.
Anthony. Yeah, it was me. It was 100% me. Rob didn't want to do it. I'm like, no, do it. So I wake up at 3 a.m. and I see a barrage of texts.
Did you call Josh right in the morning?
Well, he's in California. It was midnight by him. Dude, he's up till 1 in the morning.
Okay, I was gonna say, really? You called him at midnight?
Yeah, no, I didn't call him. I texted him. I said, "Are you up?" And he goes, "My throat's hurting, and I don't feel like talking to you right now." I'm like, dude.
Oh, I know that feeling so well.
Dang. This is a moment I'm really just happy to be me right now.
I'm the worst. So listen, now when I put the thumbnail up, Like I wasn't even thinking like Joshua has a very professional demeanor. Like he's trying to do serious things, right? Like we're a goofy show. We
Must
like
be
to stir the
nice.
pot. Like we're known for that. So like when I put it up, I wasn't even like thinking about Josh.
Yeah, I
did.
know.
I got in trouble.
I know. You
So I wasn't even thinking about him. Like he wasn't even like an afterthought. It was just how are we gonna get people to click this video? And I'm hoping to get Redeemed Zoomer's audience and Gavin Ortland's audience to click on the video because Rob put a question mark. It was like, are they low IQ Protestants? I don't know, they could be. We never said anything about them being low IQ.
You found the loophole.
Josh made the comment, these are low IQ Protestant arguments, but it wasn't about them, right? So yeah, poor Mr. Charles is right. So yeah, he was just like, dude, come on. I have like a thing I'm coming out with soon. I don't need to be like mixed up in this. I'm like, dude, we took it down. I'm so sorry. So I texted him earlier today. I'm like, you still mad at me? He's like, no, I'm not mad at you anymore, Anthony. Don't worry about it. He goes, we're good. I said, I'm glad we're good because I would be very upset if we weren't good. Like I really do like treasure my friendship with Josh. So I hope he's not mad anymore. No, we're good. We're texting. Everything's fine.
So I'm just going to say now, audience, if any of the thumbnail changes in the next 24 hours is something I didn't say, it's Anthony.
So now when
yeah,
we
but I
break
had to do it.
when we break this show up tonight, we have a few different topics we did. I want to be as outrageous as we can. Now people are like, come on, you guys, that's unprofessional. It's like, dude, do you watch the show? Like, what do you want from us?
If you expected anything else, that's on you.
The thing is, like, we're our channel should be bigger than it is. Savage Charles 2 down, one more Pacific for next.
Oh, brother.
Savage is annoyed with me because he's annoyed with me. Because I DM'd him and asked him if he would come on and talk about creation. He didn't respond. That's the first time he didn't respond to me. He always responds to me, and he didn't respond. And me and Michael Hitchborn were in that public thread with him, and I was like, maybe we could do it. I'm like, maybe we could do a Crisis, Lepanto, Babylon crossover or something. But he just, I think he's mad at me. But I don't know why. I mean, we never said anything. We just, I just think he's got a boomer opinion on evolution.
That's why he's mad at you, because you keep poking and poking and poking.
He knows it comes from a place of love. Anything else we want to get to tonight? What do you guys got? You got anything?
No, not really. Just everyone do yourself a favor. Do the Harrisons a favor, right? Keep praying for them and go buy a calendar from them. Definitely worth your time.
Buy a
They're not doing
calendar
any
from the
sort of
Harrisons.
GoFundMe or anything like that.
They don't. So thankfully, most of their stuff is all paid for. Thank the good Lord. There's honestly been some miracles that have worked out in their favor. But yeah, just big thing I can just sincerely ask is just pray for them that everything will truly, at least if it's not going to be returned to normal, will become as normal as possible. Because they're amazing people. They're learning how to. I mean, they're parenting 5 kids. But one of them, they're going to have to learn how to deal with the child with the trach tube. And so definitely just pray for them that they'll be able to continue to do that well and that the little one will be able to recover and live a great life. That'd be just awesome.
Yeah, so go support the Harrisons and
oh yes, and Margot, my 15-hour video is going to be coming up fairly soon. I've just been out of state for the last 3 months.
Is that the breakdown of what's his name's?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess this is the last stirring the pot moment, but I have an official long form response to, it's like over a year old now, but John Salz's interview with Matt Fradd, where I go through clip by clip of at least the portions where he talks about the SSPX, and I show how they're not just completely off the wall, but they're just truly in many cases. I'm not saying this about him, but just the arguments, just salacious in many instances. And so it's taken a while to make, because 1, it's 15 hours, and 2, I've been out of state, but it's coming up within the next couple
Well,
weeks.
the thing is, I know so many people that were convinced by his arguments, so I really would like to see somebody equipped to debate his arguments.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I think Kennedy Hall and I are thinking about doing something post, like show or something like that. Maybe a little bit of a quasi series joined together, discussing some of individually. But don't worry, if you guys can't get through 15 hours, totally get that. This is not Michael Lofton's show. I'm gonna break this up into like 30-minute clips so that people can actually watch it more realistically.
I'm gonna brew up a fight between Kennedy and Salmons. That's my next thing. I'm gonna brew up a fight between those two.
You just like go to bed and at like 3 a.m. you're just like, I'm gonna brew a fight between Kennedy and Salmon.
It's funny because I have a picture of you and Kennedy and Eric all shoulder to shoulder, smiling at the priest
at the Capitol Grill.
There you are going.
Dinner.
I'm gonna brew a fight between these two.
We went to dinner together at the Capitol Grill, had steaks together.
All the while, Anthony was becoming friends with both of them, so we know they're precious.
So you could tear them apart.
I'm gonna get Kennedy and Eric to discuss creation because they do the 1 Peter 5 episode every once in a while, and but it's not live. They never do it live.
Yeah, because they know you would. They know
always
you.
pre-recorded. I gotta brew some trouble up over
there. What's nothing yet? That's the problem. He's gonna make
yeah, exactly. No, well, the creation thing. Kennedy's a young Earth creationist, and Eric is a modernist evolutionist.
See, I would just love if Anthony had like a little bit more clout, so that he could just be like, "I'm gonna brew controversy between Donald Trump and Pope Francis." He's just thinking it's 3 a.m.
I wish I had that kind of clout. That would be great.
But I would like everyone before they go to bed tonight, pray that he never gets that much clout, please.
Offer your Lents and sacrifices for that petition.
You guys don't understand. I was in middle school and high school. My principal in middle school pulled me aside and asked me if I would be a peer mediator.
I know this story.
She's like, you were very well liked by everybody, and sometimes kids are about to have a fight. Like if you hear like there's going to be a fight at the end of school, I want you to be the one to bring those people together and maybe sit them down and have a conversation. And I would purposely get people to fight and then bring them into peer mediation and get them to sit down and squash the beef.
You basically ensured that your position would continue.
I would start an argument between them, and then I would sit them down and be like, "Listen, guys, listen.
Just if you haven't confessed that one yet, you should write that one down for next time."
I'm going to do that with Kennedy and Eric. I'm going to brew up a fight, and then
Sean answered his own question. You have the Amish revolutionary spirit.
Wait, what's the video of it's like when they're getting arrested.
You're like an arsonist firefighter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I am. No, the tunnel guy's getting arrested and they're playing the Godfather theme or something, or it's like we gotta find that video
right now.
No, it's just funny. Just showing how the Amish and the Italians they got some similarities, except the Italians aren't trying to overturn Christian civilization.
Unless they're in Italy, apparently, right now with paganism.
Well, that's a fair point. All right, you guys got anything in the comments you want us to discuss? Come on, give us some stuff because we got about we're already over 2 hours.
I was gonna say, how long do you want this to go?
Rival our 4-hour stream.
I don't know. My wife's sleeping. What am I doing? Friday night.
So is mine, but I think one of my children's awake down by himself downstairs. I don't know how good that could go.
I got so excited tonight that it was Friday. I'm like, guys, we're going on Friday. We can have a beer on air. And then I texted them both the phone. I'm like, it's Lent.
Sucker.
I can't even have a beer. It's Lent. Holy cow. I was so happy it was Friday night that we were going to sit up and drink. Like, if we were drinking right now, we would hang out for another 2 hours for sure. Like, Nick, I know you're good for a 5-hour show.
Oh, yeah, because I'm single and no one's around. So,
who's at your grandmother's with you?
I just my mom and dad. I actually met them up here, and we're all hanging out with the grandparents. Yeah.
So my wife says to me all the time, she goes, so like I get up at 4, I go to work, I get home, and then we come down here and we do this till 10 at night. I mean, I'm sleeping like 5 hours a night on the nights when we do the show. My wife's just like, I don't know how you have the energy. It's weird. I'll be exhausted. And then once we get on, it's like I just turn on. I don't know. I can't explain it. I can do it in 2 hours.
Where's my banjos? They're back in Texas weeping that I'm not around them.
What happened with the check?
Oh, which what are you referring to?
Yeah, you were talking like you might have some.
I'm in the slow process of I would say getting to know various nice young women.
Weeding them out. You got so many options, you're just weeding them out.
Yeah, without maybe the good thing is at least the one that I've wed down to doesn't really have access to the internet very often.
You listen to Anthony's marriage advice video. Good job.
Yeah, because
the less informed, the better, Nick.
The less well, let's just put it this way. I'm very excited at the prospect of being married one day because I don't know, like. The last 3 weeks hanging out with kids and like being a quasi, role model to them, there's just something just so amazing where it goes from like the theoretical abstract to in real life. Bro, you get so exhausted like taking care of kids, like you just be tired, but then they just make you laugh and it's all worth
amazing.
It.
It really is. And the thing is, it's like other people's kids are adorable and cute and you'll laugh. There's nothing like when you watch your kid learn something for the first time, you just I remember being so annoying about my kids when they were little, and it's like you got to kind of remember like other people don't care about your kids because you just want to tell them you don't know what he said last night. You don't know what he said. It's like, dude, I don't care about your kids. Nobody else cares about your kids. You think something's amazing, they're like, yeah, great. I don't care about your kids.
Mrs. Homemaker, she's an actual Amish girl. Not quite, but not far off either. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it might be good to grab a Mennonite on Rumspringa. Just convert her.
Oh brother.
Just find a Mennonite on Rumspringa and just say, you're coming with me. You're converting to the Catholic faith. All right, guys. This went on about 7 minutes longer than it should have.
At least.
I hope you guys had a good laugh with us tonight, man. Quite a roller coaster.
Oh, this was a good one. It was fun.
Yeah. You got a way to take us out. We never know how to end. All right, Rob, take us out, bro.
I'm not gay no more. I am the.
That one's always funny. I just love that one. Okay, yeah, here we go. We'll go old school tonight. How about that?
Let's do it.
Unite the clans. Enoch. Let's go. Yo. Take me back to my reversion. Unite the clans. I give thanks to each person. It's that same holy water that we immerse in. It's that same tradition that we all each versed in. United we stand and divided they win. They ignited in their plans and divided they sin. If you think about it and see us all for the same lands, their biggest fear is that we all remain friends. I got love for Team Marsh and y'all podcast. I got love for Michael Matt fans. Ryan Grant, Rick, Barrett, T. Flanders, and Eric Sammons. Shout out to my boy, John Arrington, avoid Babylon. I got love for Anthony and Rob Speak On. If you tried, you're persecuted the same for the weak heart. Our roots go way back before the Genesis of Greek art, sweetheart.